Welcome to the Arab Film Fest Collab. AFFC is a collectively produced virtual film festival screening independent Arab cinema, presented by the Arab American National Museum, the Arab Film and Media Institute, Arte East, and MISNA. To learn more, please visit our virtual platform, which will be listed after our talk. My name is Donna Khorsheed, and I'm the Artistic Director of the Arab Film and Media Institute in the San Francisco Bay Area. The Arab Film and Media Institute's mission is to enhance public understanding of Arab culture and provide insight into the beauty, complexity, and diversity intrinsic to the Arab world. AFMI hosts the largest and longest-running independent Arab film festival in this country. And now it's my great pleasure to welcome our special guest. Writer-director Najwa Najjar received her BA in Political Science and Economics and an MA in Cinema. She has written and directed over 10 award-winning documentaries and narrative features, including her critically acclaimed debut, Pomegranates and Myrrh, in 2009, her film Eyes of a Thief in 2014, won awards for Best Director and Best Actor, among many others, and was the Palestinian entry in the 2015 Oscars for Best Foreign Language Film and the Golden Globe Awards. She recently completed her third feature film, Between Heaven and Earth. Welcome, Najwa.
Hi, Ahlan.
Ahlan. Lovely to finally see you live.
Yes. Thank you for this.
Thank you, Najwa, for being with us. I wanted to start out with what's remarkable about the film is the way it juxtaposes both a personal story, the struggle of the couple to reconcile their love, against a communal story, the erasure of Palestinians on their own land. And at the end of the film, the audience begins to learn that it's impossible to delineate between what's communal and what's personal. Was this blurring a purposeful choice on your part when making the film?
It was my journey, actually. We were eating falafel in a place in Haifa, and Palestinian owner, he came up to me, seeing me taking pictures, and he said to me, "What do you do?" And I told him that I'm a filmmaker. And he started to tell me about his son who had refused a scholarship to London, to Goldsmith University, because he's one of the guardians of Ikrit. I went online to see where Ikrit was. Google Map had erased completely who we are, had erased Ikrit. So I went back, I started to check and see what's the information, what about Ikrit? And it turned out it was one of the 5 villages on the Lebanese border, and the newly founded state, which was destroyed by Israel in 1948, between 1948 and 1952. Mm-hmm. Now, Ikrit's story was that they raised a court case and won a court case in 1951 to return to their land, and they're the only Palestinians. Kufr Baram also raised the case, but they lost it, or it has not been, and they were the only ones who got their return to their land, the right to return to their land. So the next day, Donna, me and Hani, the producer, who's also my husband, we took a 10-hour trip. And it was 10 hours, not because it was literally erased off the map. When we finally found it, these 3 young men and women came up, and they were sitting there, and they were so full of this resistance and an understanding of who they are, and pride. And they're 20 years old, and they're defending their land. The whole way back, it was, how do I make this into a story? They have divorced us from each other. We no longer know each other's story, because what is divorce at the end? It's cutting ties. It's not knowing about the other person. It's all of this. So in my mind, it became a divorce, but it's also about love. It's very much about love of land. It's about a love of stories. It's about a love of the forgotten stories of Palestinians who live inside of historic Palestine. Their stories are not told often enough. The Syrians who live in the Golan Heights, Palestinians who are in Lebanon. And so all of these stories came together, and in the process of this journey, Another story came out, which is the story of the Arab Jews that were brought to replace the Palestinians, the 750,000 Palestinians forced to leave in 1948. 600,000 Arab Jews were brought in from the Arab world, and their story of the stolen children, and had the discrimination that they faced, being put in internment camps. All of these stories started to come together about and it solidified, because I always say that we have a national struggle, not a religious struggle, that all these stories about a country, how do we bring it together except through a road journey?
Well,
so that was the, yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, so that was the start of how I pulled it together, and it wasn't an intentional thing, but it became the personal and the communal. They are absolutely interrelated.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
My question does relate to the element of the classic road trip, and as you included it, I was thinking that it's very apparent that you took the elements of the classic road trip and included the importance of the journey as a mode of discovery, the theme of attainable freedom for protagonists on the road, and the ode to nature, land, to new heights, especially in the lived reality of Palestinians who are often denied freedom of movement. So
yes.
I wanted to ask, can you talk a little bit about like the challenges of filming given the restrictions from the occupation? Because surely
we
there
shot
were challenges.
I can laugh now, but it was shot in 24 days. We had a team that was made up of 30 people. We have an Icelandic co-production, which we've been working on with all our movies, where the Icelandic fund comes in with a team, and it was 4 Icelandic team members with the 30 Palestinians. Very much men and women, and not because I'm a woman, it's just because we're qualified. So women are in the team, and quite a wonderful team. And we've worked with them, many of them we've trained on our first movies, and we continued. And I'm saying this for a reason. For a movie to be shot in 24 days, starting in Jericho, Taibat, Ramallah, and then going into Haifa, Yafa, Nasr, to go up to Jish, which is right on the Lebanese border, to Ras al-Naura, which is a military checkpoint, to go to the last Palestinian village really fighting for its Palestinianhood on Jisr al-Zarqa. Amazing, wonderful, amazing place. And then, of course, to shoot in Ikrit, where the whole story began, you need a team that is really dedicated and has a lot of love, because otherwise it's absolutely impossible. So we had prepared very, very well for it. The first AD and the DOP was there. We worked for 6 weeks. Everything I had worked before that for about 1.5 years, between the locations and how to do it and and everything else. So with all the preparations that we did, and with everything that we needed to do, we, of course, it's very hard for us to ask for permissions inside of Israel, because they need to read the script. It's a lot of there's a lot of control on it. And seriously, I don't want anybody to tell me in my country what I can and can't do. In the Palestinians, they don't read the script. It's not like they're asking for censorship, nothing like this. So why should I be under anyone else's censor? And but for example, if you want to shoot on a checkpoint, there are certain things. So there was a deserted checkpoint, for example, where we got permission, and then we were setting up, we're about to shoot, and we get a phone call that right now, this was in Jericho, if you don't leave, there were jeeps of Israeli soldiers coming into Jericho to arrest us. So we quickly packed up, we left, and we had to start to find other things. That arrest passed, but 4 other crew members were arrested. Our prop master, he was returning props to Jaffa. He was stopped at the checkpoint in Ramallah, and they told him, "You can't pass. These are real guns." And he's like, "Are you serious? I would be passing this checkpoint with real guns that are in the back seat." Regardless, he was arrested. The production manager, she went to take him out. She too was arrested, and she's a lawyer by profession. There's nothing she could do. Our grip, he went to Nazareth. He was arrested, and we didn't see him for the rest as much as we tried to reach out to him. Our makeup girl has a very interesting, quite sad story, is that her brother was shot, him and his friend, about 5 years ago, and they raised a court case, and they lost it against the sniper. And then the result of them losing it was them to be forbidden from ever entering. But she decided to take a risk. We don't take risks with our crew. But she decided to take a risk, and she crossed over. Before the last day, she was caught and thrown into prison, and then thrown into the West Bank. So we had arrests, we had complications of not being able to shoot outside the car when we were on the streets, because in Haifa or in Jaffa, we had a very good producer, which is Hani Court, on that was there, that actually managed all the divisions and all the things that go behind the scenes. But I think that if we didn't have a team that was so dedicated and had so much really love, then it couldn't have been done, because something would happen and everybody would pitch in, and you would see the grip doing makeup, not makeup, but you know what I mean. Everybody was really, really pulling in with each other. I have to say that.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it was wonderful. That was absolutely necessary also.
After all of that, yeah.
Yes.
So the unveiling of what's ailing the couple personally parallels the many secrets that the state of Israel hides. Can you talk about the process of unveiling secrets in the film?
I mean, it's I think because when I was young, I was always reading all the Nancy Drews and the Hardy Boys and all the mystery stories, and I'm always so attracted to this. And I guess somehow it's always coming up in my writing as well. So it was living in a place where it's difficult to live a normal life, and where your heart bleeds and breaks every day, and where you can't sit there and talk all the time about repression and problems, and you want to live and you want to create a place where your kids can be happy, and do something simple like cooking a different meal and finding the ingredients or whatever it is. This became kind of the basis for the story of the couple, is that how do you love under occupation? And it's also a universal story because people have different kinds of problems all over the world. And how does love manage to pull you through? And, I'm a kind of a believer in love and human relationships and friendships and family. That's kind of the good things in life for me. And so the couple, and I had to build up characters. And how do you build up characters that have depth and definition? I can't just have a couple that is, they're getting a divorce. That's not interesting to me. And I find that we are, we're complicated people. We have a lot. And so to build a character of a boy, and these are many of our friends whose fathers were killed, their mothers were assassinated. These are people that we know. How do they deal with the trauma? How do, what are the things that, some people might become gamblers and just throw life away because life has been taken away from them. Others might become really introverted. They're unable to love. So I tried to take different things. I did a lot of research. I talked to a lot of psychologists, a lot of our friends who went through this thing as well. And she's a girl. We have been more and more introduced to the Palestinians who live inside of 48, and their stories that have been really forgotten, that I really wanted to work into characters as well. So she's a lawyer. Her family used to be, which is like many people in in Nazareth, in part of the Communist Party. The disappointments that came with that, because communism would mean that Muslim, Christian, Jew doesn't matter. But so it became the biggest threat to the Israeli state, that especially the Jews that were coming from the Arab world, many of them, especially from Iraq, were part of the Communist Party. So all of this information was absolutely fascinating. So here I am, overwhelmed with all these incredible stories, and thinking, how do you work that into a story where you can have these elements? So I worked them into the characters, and to have the characters speak the stories that, the unspoken stories. And people don't have to understand everything. You can always go back and research or try and understand it. But that was the only way to kind of like build depth into each character. And each character had that same kind of study. I just went through Selma and Tamit. And then to have them lead the journey. I'm going somewhere with this, but somehow I forgot the initial question. I told you I'm a talker. No, but I'm going somewhere with this. The initial question was...
We were talking about unveiling secrets in the film and the process.
Yes. So
you're on the right track.
I knew I was going for a second. Sorry. So the characters, when they become these, I hope, well-rounded characters, then they have backgrounds, and they have their own secrets, and they have their own troubles, and how that comes out. And it's like any relationship with your husband, with your children, with your family members. Not everything is spoken. So this is the very, very personal, intimate secrets that I wanted to reveal in the story. And the other secrets of the Arab Jewish children, for example, that's also part of a trauma of the Arab world, and it's part of our story in the Arab world. So that's why I found it really necessary, because Israel was created by European Jews. It's Ashkenazi. It's not related to the region. It's kind of like a white man state in the Arab world. Yeah. So these are other secrets and other stories, and I'm always really attracted to these things that slowly unfold. And it's part of reading the mysteries when I'm younger, but it's also part of my nature. I don't like anything really in your face. I like it to come out slowly and part of a story, so that you engage the people. And I'm hoping. I mean, so.
No, it was very engaging.
Thank you.
So my next question was, throughout the film, you hinted at the constant overt and covert struggles the Palestinians undergo at the hands of Israel. When Salma Tamer and the Sufi Palestinian try and locate Almog, the belligerent Israelis in the village try and start a fight, but it's the older Jewish man who comes through with the voice of reason and saying, we never fought with our Arab brothers until we came to this country.
Yes.
And I wanted to ask you just to talk about, which you started to mention already, how you wish to portray the coexistence between Arabs and Jews as it precedes the existence of Israel, the state of Israel.
Okay. I'm going to say, Arabs of all denominations. I'm a little bit sensitive to that. Because it kind of puts us like Arabs and Jews. No, Jews were part of the Arab world, as are Christians, and just as are Muslims. And I spoke to several Jews that came from mostly Iraq. I was really interested in that. I tried to visit the areas, and I saw that of the Jewish of the Israeli Jewish population, they make up 50%, which is quite a number. And to read their stories, to hear, I saw this wonderful documentary by a friend of mine called Samir, which also talks about the communist parties, and they were communists that came from Iraq. They were Jewish, and they lived inside of Israel, and their dreams and their disappointments and everything else. And so it was really interesting. I met with people, and it was across the line. Almost the whole generation said to me, we never had problems. And when I speak to their counterparts, Muslims and Christians that also had Jewish friends, across the line. My own mother, when in my first documentary, Naim Wadia, says, but this was also the Jews that were living inside of Palestine. There was never that conflict. Now, the younger generation is quite belligerent, is angry, and hates his skin. This is from what we face every day, who they put on our checkpoints, and how much they refuse to speak Arabic. No. So when you have a state telling you that as an Arab, you are less, you are dirty, we are going to spray you with DDT, you can't raise your children, we are going to take them and give them to the Ashkenazi, according to Israeli statistics, 8,000 stolen babies. When you have all of these messages where white is better, white in terms of, you understand, white supremacy, I'm not speaking in terms of color of skin, of course, but it comes with the color of the skin, but you can have somebody who's black or who's Arab who can also think in the same way. So, but it's a mentality. So when you have that, and we face it every day, that we are less than fourth-class citizens, then the belligerence and it's justified because you have dehumanized, you've dehumanized all the people around you, because in this little place that we call Israel, you have, I think the difference between us is something like 200,000 Palestinians. In all of historic Palestine, I think it's 5.2 million, Israelis 5.4, something like this. It's a very close thing. So that's a lot of people to hate. And I think it's quite sad. And we actually, when we have discussions, our first suggestion is, please remove the draft. Don't let your 17-year-old kid hold a gun. So it comes with a whole mentality of a state which hates Palestinians, very aggressive. And you have the Arab Jews who face that first-handedly in every single way. So yeah, but to have that voice of reason and to have it, to come back to the essence of, this is not a religious conflict. It's not Muslim against Jew. It is a national conflict, and we need to deal with this like responsible adults, and hence the responsible adult voice. So.
Right. No, that was a very touching moment in the film, I think. And interestingly, my next question actually just relates to what you were saying, that when they also finally meet Almog and he speaks of the golden age, I was going to ask you to elaborate on that illusion, but you've already.
No, I did.
Yes. Okay. And then also, when they learn about the stolen children of Arab Jews who were given to Ashkenazis, as you already discussed, when Tamer sees Tamir as he leaves the nursing home, he tells him, "My parents were killed in return for your mother finding you." And I wanted to ask if you could talk about how you chose to insert this micro-narrative into the larger narrative of the story. And maybe if you could touch upon also with the flashbacks, and I would love to hear.
Okay. I mean, I really wanted to focus on a love story about divorce. I mean, that really was my main narrative within a country that has many stories. And his problem is his inability to deal with what has happened. The death, the killing of his parents has been, that seemed to me in a lot of the children and adult children that we met who have this kind of traumatic experience, was that they don't want to deal with it. It's a very tough experience. So he is unable, I mean, at the end, they're not getting a divorce because he beats her. She's not an alcoholic. It's none of the big dramatic things that sometimes, certain cinematic parts of our industry like to see. It's just a couple, can't get along anymore. There's no communication. She thinks he's emotionally not there, and that's valid. And she's tried and tried and tried, and it just doesn't work. And his arc had to take him through a process of where he has to come to terms, or not, with his past. But that's his journey. And so I kind of had this, in building the script, of having a mirror, to mirror him in some ways with Tamir. So you have, Tamir also, who has gone through a trauma, of course, not like Tamir, not like Tamer, but it's a different kind of trauma. And when I heard about the stories of the stolen children, I just went, it was like, our parents are stolen from us, and their children were stolen from them. And what is the trauma? And how do you mirror that? And of course, that's not the main thing of my story, but it is the trigger, and it is part of Tamer's arc. So that confrontation at the end was kind of necessary for him to go forward, and again, or not. I mean, also, it's human nature. I don't build a rosy picture. It's not like you can, one confrontation will allow him to go forward. But through being able to having small flashbacks and then finally seeing the bigger picture and seeing, that they're really gone. I mean, he was a little boy, and he's putting on her shoe. So in his mind, she's still going to get up and walk. I mean, that's my writing and my way of thinking. So that's how I worked in that part of the story with Tamir. So
I wanted to say that I already, from a lot of people that have already watched the film, a lot of the audience that I spoke with were deeply moved by your film, and a lot of them felt a deep resonance with the characters. And your ability to weave presence and absence, the communal and individual, and the state and the citizen is really, truly remarkable. And, congratulations, Najwa, on such an incredible film.
It really means a lot. I mean, it means a lot to hear this, especially in the US, especially with, communities that we have not been able to reach out to. And so thank you for that.
No, thank you so much. And it's, as I was saying, we were all so moved, and also just the road trip itself, seeing all the landscape, it made us feel as if we were transported there. So thank you so much, Najwa. I just had one last question. I wanted to tell us a little bit about your experience being at the Cairo International Film Festival as you are now, and what it's like to be on the jury. A typical day.
Obviously, I look a mess. We had deliberations all night last night. So excuse me. But we are on a jury with a legend, actually. It's Alexandra Sokolov, who is like the most he's so renowned all over the world, and he's really a legend, and he's a walking culture. So but then we also have wonderful, amazing, we have like a superstar Lublaba with us, and Gabi Khouri, an amazing Buran, he's this Afghanistani German director, Karim Anous. We have an amazing jury, and a young Mexican actress, so Naina. So we were we've become kind of like a family, and also with Mr. Alexander, but the discussions were incredibly intense. It's a huge responsibility to be on one of the top 15 festivals, A-class festivals in the world. To be on the international jury of these festivals is a huge responsibility. I mean, literally everybody was taking it so seriously, hence staying up all night. Literally, this is 3 days of deliberations. So, but we finished. Tomorrow is the closing ceremony. I think in the time of COVID, to be able to watch cinema in a theater with people, to get reactions. We were not allowed to watch most of the movies with people. By the way, we had only 2 or 3 experiences, but even with our small jury, to be able to be in a cinema and to watch films was extraordinary. It was like being given $1 million. So that was very special. Yes, so it's quite special.
Yeah, no,
But so
something we all miss.
And I love private. Yeah. Sorry.
No. And also, is there anything? Can you tell us about what you're working on?
Yes, I can a bit.
Also, yeah.
No, it's during COVID, I took a script that it's been kind of a script that I've been wanting to do for ages, and it's a musical. And I had written it about 4 years ago, and with COVID, I took it back and I started to rewrite it. It's a musical that's set in Alexandria in the 1930s, and it has a Palestinian subtext. It's a Palestinian protagonist as well as an Egyptian protagonist, and it's a musical with another look at the world and a different kind of thing. So I'm in Cairo also. I've been discussing with producers and co-producers, and it's gotten quite a bit of attention. So hopefully.
Well, especially in Egypt. I mean, it's been, the classic Egyptian musical. It's something that we don't see anymore. So I think that's very exciting.
Yeah, it's so much fun. I can't tell you. It's so nice. Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. It does have a Palestinian element in it, but I think it's also nice to explore different parts of what could be done. So hopefully.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Thank you so much, Najwa, for being with us.
Can I just ask for you for one thing? If the viewers would like, because it's been very sad that we haven't been able to be with you. If they can reach out to us on social media, on IMDb, rate the movie, make reviews, good or bad or ugly, whatever, it doesn't matter. But just so we get a sense of how people are taking the movie.
Certainly, we'll do that, and we'll actually put it on our sites as well. And we'll send
Thank you
to you. Thank you, Najwa. Have a wonderful day.
And thank you.
And hope to meet you again in reality. Take care.
Inshallah. Thank you for the lovely questions. Thank you.
No, thank you. Take care.